Okay, so let's take a look at the history of content, but very, very briefly. And this really just starts very, very simply with where content comes from. Content tells epic stories, and it draws people together around a shared experience. It originally came from the battlefield and the farm field, and it gets shaped around the tribe telling the stories. As we started telling stories, we began to build up tribal knowledge about how the stories got told. And that became the first silos in content development and management and distribution. Because each time a story got told, there was a process by which that happened, and we began to develop patterns in tribes for delivering and managing the stories that we have in our history. As we've evolved, our content evolved with us. It started out in those tribes talking around a fire, and now it's more geared towards mass market distribution of ideas and all kinds of information to manage a much more complex society with nearly 8 billion people on the planet. But it's usually still built with that tribal process. Content gets written, defined, and published within a small group focused on a one content artifact or output format, right? The website or the portal, the app, the chatbot, the email series. This is true of most enterprise content, with very few exceptions. Really, any size organization builds content in this kind of tribal way. So, let's look at that and figure out if there's a better way. When we work in these tribes, what happens is we've created factionalism. We've ended up with so many groups doing their own thing without regard for the larger customer effort. That larger customer experience gets lost in the weeds of the individual tribes with their tools publishing their one content type or their 3 content types out to their 3 or 4 channels. And the bigger experience is just not in view. That's understandable. It's also human. But we are not stuck in tribalism. There are ways to create connections between all those groups, between those tribes, with patterns. And that's one of the most important shifts we can make in teams, is getting ourselves to work against some common understandings of how content operates and flows. So we have been challenging the status quo as an industry, really, and as many individuals for the last decade. A has certainly been a part of this, but so many other organizations have been as well, and so many in-house teams. We're all moving from this chaos towards coherence and order, and working towards harmonization for content so it gets orchestrated between groups as a whole effort. So, join us in the next episode as we explore new ways that teams are coming together and finding this common ground. Unified content functions do take coordination and collaboration, but that's the point. Better customer experiences come from better collaboration. We'll look at the drivers which are moving customer experience forward and see the underlying patterns that teams are using to get content connected and flowing across channels. Subscribe for new episodes, and let's continue to take one step at a time towards a smarter world.